And Wright Thompson joins us now. I thought about you, as I often do, right? With Urban Meyer going through everything that he's going through, I went back and reread your profile of Urban Meyer. Is he wired to be an NFL head coach, in your opinion?
I mean, it's funny because I went back. I never go read one, and I read it not that long ago. And so to cop out on your original question, I don't know if he is. I think he is wired to try to be successful at anything. And I think that, like many, many successful people, the things that make him great are so closely tied to the things that ultimately cause him to self-destruct that it's sort of hard to say. One of the things I always liked about Urban Meyer is that and you know how rare this is, he seems to be self-aware enough in moments to understand all of his own worst impulses and his inability to control them. And like, I found that really interesting, that like he could still sort of see the guy in the mirror, and that is pretty rare.
But also, he doesn't step on the field 99% of the time with the best talent, the best team. Now he's going to step on the field, and then I wonder what that losing does to him. When you lose more games in a season than you do in 5 years, how does that penetrate Urban Meyer?
And it's just a different job. I mean, it is just fundamentally a different job. And so, I was there when he talked to his first ever recruiting class, like their first week at Ohio State. And he talked about the sound the crowd made when they came out of the tunnel. And he talked about the sound 5 rings made when they would slam their hand down on the podium when they got their diploma, and like described to them coming back here with their kids and grandkids. And it's just like that's a shtick. That's unfair. That's cynical and unfair. But that thing has an audience, and that audience is not an NFL locker
room. And then I just wondered, health-wise, like, you're around him. Is he aware of his health and what it did to him, what the job does to him?
I think, well, this is what we were just talking about. I mean, I think intellectually he knows. His wife, Shelly, who's great, I don't think she would let him go back if she didn't believe that he was okay. Yeah. But I mean, it's a little bit of a dry drunk, I mean, the propensity to lose yourself in this rabbit hole is always there. And it is interesting that he knows this is a fire that burns him, but he keeps going back to it. And I mean, that to me is as interesting a thing to watch as what the team does on the field.
When you heard about Tim Tebow and the possibility, your first reaction was?
I mean, of course. There are many ways to describe Urban that are charitable and uncharitable, and most of them are true. I've always thought he's just a guy who's desperate for a belief system. And I think he finds Tim Tebow's certainty to be reassuring. And I mean, look, this is now we've ventured into psychobabble, but like Urban is a guy searching for a thing to believe in. And so it makes sense that people who really believe something, whether that is an offensive philosophy or, the 4 books of the gospel, he is attracted to that always.
Paulie, give Wright the poll question today.
All right. If this is based off Bob Baffert and the Preakness, would you rather be considered a cheater or incompetent/reckless?
Wow. I think I would rather. Oh, wow. That's hard. I mean, I guess I would rather be seen as incompetent and reckless.
Is Bob Baffert a cheater or reckless?
I was just talking about this with people, and I honestly don't know the answer. I mean, I find it hard to believe that someone would be that careless, that close to a race like that. But it's also, I mean, Bob Baffert is Nick Saban, and these horses are the 5-star recruits, and he sees them in their living room, and he sees them on senior day. And, that's not a stretch to say that they're players at Alabama who, after their recruiting visit, will never be alone in a room with Nick Saban again. And so, like, if you're an owner and you're hiring Bob Baffert, you're buying the Bob Baffert experience. And so the thing that will be tricky for Bob is to accurately explain what's going on at the barn and not destroy the myth. I mean, he's a CEO. I mean, that's what these guys do at this level when you have that many horses. But I think if you have $1 million horse in your head, you know, you've seen the movies, you imagine Bob Baffert stroke him and whispering to him at 5 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, like it doesn't work like that. And so, you know, this is the classic dangerous scandal because just below the news is the really potentially damaging thing for an entire way of doing business.
But I don't know if you saw his interview with me or heard about it, but I said, Bob, have you taken inventory with your staff? Like, before you do scorched earth, don't you ask? Like, don't you start with your veterinarian and just say, I just want to make sure because I'm going to get in front of the cameras and I'm going at people. He had cancel culture, he had sabotage, and you're going, let me start with the veterinarian.
Just like, can somebody tell me every single thing that has touched this horse, and if any of those things have this thing in it? You would think that would be the first question.
Well, you see the cream, it's right there on it. You see this anti-inflammatory or fungal thing right there on the label.
I mean, sometimes you just got to look in Mark McGuire's locker. You know, I mean, but it's just right there. I mean, it's very. I don't know the answer to that, but that's the $1 million question.
But do you think horse racing fans care?
No, and I mean, I think this is now we're at the real question, which is horse racing designed for a transparent world in which scrutiny exists? And the answer, frankly, might be no. And it was very interesting to me to see how hard Churchill Downs came out against Baffert, because the only two real centers of power in horse racing as it exists in popular culture are the Kentucky Derby and Bob Baffert. So the fact that they turned on each other almost immediately within hours was really interesting, because maybe they know something we don't know, but it seems your fans don't care and would rather just not think about it. So it seems a very strategically interesting move by them. And, you know, it makes me wonder, you know, maybe they're just like fed up and like, or maybe they know something we don't know, but it was very interesting to see the only two household names in horse racing turn on each other within several hours.
What are you working on now?
Man, I am going to Manchester, England in 2 weeks for my it's a first international trip post-COVID, and I'm writing a story about Man United supporters, specifically in a couple of really old neighborhoods.
Can I go with you?
You could absolutely come with me.
I got to quit this job and get divorced. I'll do it.
I mean,
for you.
You know, you're going to lose your house, so you might have to come with me.
Okay. Yeah. Man, because you love yourself some soccer, but is it the soccer or is it the fans?
I like the fan. Well, I mean, both, but in this instance, I like Man United, Man City, Liverpool. I like those teams in those towns that were the cradle of the Industrial Revolution. You know, Manchester United started as the company softball team, essentially, for the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railroad. And so, you know, this thing has roots in the Industrial Revolution. So I find it interesting that the forces that changed all of these people's lives and created these teams were the forces of globalism that Manchester and Liverpool and London sent out into the world. And now they've arrived back on their shores in the form of globalist owners of their teams, and they don't like it, which I don't blame them. But it is interesting that, like, you sent this boomerang out into the world, and now it has finally come back to you.
By the way, Wright Thompson is a 2021 American Society of Magazine Editors Awards finalist, feature writing category for Michael Jordan, History of Flight. I know you didn't ask me to mention that, but Fritzy got me that information there. What do you want people to know about that article that you did on Michael Jordan, that profile?
That Michael, the key to understand, the key to really seeing Michael Jordan, I think, is understanding how country he grew up and how country his family is. And, you know, he grew up on grandparents and great-grandparents' farms. in the country outside of Wilmington. People think Wilmington, but they lived on the very edge of Wilmington. And until his father moved there, they had always lived in this tiny little square of North Carolina. There's Burgaw up there. There are a bunch of places that listeners probably know about. And so he's very, very country. And, his defining memory of his father growing up is his dad out working on a car in the driveway with the car on blocks and running around in the woods with his brothers. And so seeing that explains a lot of things about how he became like he is. I mean, Michael knew his great grandfather, who was the son of a slave. I mean, the history shrinks in on itself. I mean, I love to go places where the membrane between past and present is as thin as possible. And there are a lot of places like that all over Eastern North Carolina where Michael Jordan grew up.
Do you ever profile happy people?
Yes. Dale Murphy, dude.
Oh, you're right. But is that boring? Because Murph is one of the great people, not great athletes, great people I've ever met.
It was, I mean, I don't want to wax on Murph too much, but it was life-changing for me in that it allowed, God, I can't believe I'm saying this. This is like a therapy session. It allowed me to see the dangers of sort of my own ambition, because I was confronted with a guy who had come out the other side and had made the correct choices and was very, very happy, and was happy with his family, both in how he saw them and how they saw him. And I just walked away thinking, well, this is the closest I've ever seen to the secret of life on display. I mean, it's one of the, you talked about Pappyland. I mean, one of the things that was really driving that book is, I mean, I started on that pretty soon after I was with Murph. And it was, if anything, that book is a roadmap for me to try to figure out how to be more like Dale Murphy.
That's high praise. That's high praise for Murph.
He's something,
my gosh. Yes.
He's as good. And it's real. And like, you shouldn't meet your childhood heroes. So I was very nervous about that, because I was like, if Dale Murphy's a jerk, I don't believe in anything anymore.
I remember meeting Pete Maravich, and I just wanted him to be a good guy. And I don't know if he was, but it stayed with me. You're right. You be careful what you ask for. Hey, hope family's good, and play nice when you go over there to England. All right.
Oh, I will. I know. I'm very excited for my full English breakfast. I have to quarantine for 5 days in a hotel, which, as the parent of 2 toddlers, sounds great.
Have some blood pudding over there.
Yeah. I'll have whatever, as long as I can sleep in.
Thank you, Wright. Great to talk to you, buddy.
Take it easy.
And that's Wright Thompson, ESPN senior writer. And get your copy of the book Pappyland online, wherever books are sold. And really, it's a wonderful Father's Day gift.